I personally asked Dan to come because it's phenomenal what's going on there. This partnership of what God's doing, 1,000 leaders in Punjabi, the Tibetan, we're looking at Richard now going into Tibet. He's already got a ministry into Tibet, and now we've got the Tibetan language. You've been are able to use it up in the northern part. There's so many things that you're doing, but the funniest and the most extraordinary, ridiculous way that God's using these sheep. Amen. Just tell us a little bit about how this is going on. It's bizarre.
Okay. I don't want to take up any more of this man's time because I'm very anxious to listen to the Holy Spirit through him. But just very quickly, I went to Kashmir, and it was the middle of a war zone. It's the very tip of India, surrounded by Pakistan, China, India. All three of them are fighting over this land, 3 nuclear countries. And they said that you can come and bring a prayer team, but it's in the middle of a war right now, so you'd have to stay in the church, and we're not sure if we can feed you anything more than a little bit of rice. But if you want to come and pray, we'd love to have you come and pray. And I looked at my team, and I thought, man, every single one of these people love 24/7 prayer. This works. And so we went, and they got us into the church. We spent 40 hours nonstop. I think there was 8 of us, some Indians, some Americans, and some Kashmiris joined us. We went 40 hours nonstop, just pray and worship with about 8 people. And whenever you got tired, you lay down, pop back up, whatever it was. And at the end of that 40 hours, we just felt like God had really heard our prayers. Within, I think it was a day or two after that, the headlines on the newspaper was, after 78 days, the city has reopened. And that was right after our 40 hours of prayer there. So that was in October of that year. I came back 3 months later in January, and supposed to be there for 2 days. The worst snowstorm in 17 years came in. We got snowed in. We couldn't go anywhere. 2 days became 5 days of drinking lots of kava and having a smoky wood-burning fireplace. And just sitting there, my team was going nuts. And they were, man, we spent all this money to come here for nothing. And which was hilarious. But anyway, while we're there, a Muslim businessman finds out that I'm in town. He comes to meet with me, and he presents this incredible strategy of a project. He's been raising sheep up in the mountains with the Kashmiri Muslims. They're shepherds by trade. They're very poor. They do not own any of their own sheep. He wanted to do something to help them. And so he came up with an idea that we have 125 sheep divided between 5 shepherds. We give 25 sheep each. And at the end of each year, they pay me back 5 sheep. So therefore, it's not a gift. They have to pay it back. So at the end of 1 year, you have 5 shepherds, all giving 5 sheep each. You now have another herd of 25, and it continues to multiply. And so it's an unreached people group. There are no Christians up in those mountains, very few Christians in Kashmir. I think it's 7 or 8 million people, and there may be 300 or 400 Christians in the entire state. And so I told him, I said, I'm willing to do this and pray to Jesus. I said, we don't do fundraising. We don't ask for money. The only way I can get this is if Jesus says yes. And so I will pray. And if Jesus says yes, I will say yes. And I said, the only thing that I ask is we have access to the village. We have relationships with the shepherds and their families. And I get to talk about Jesus and pray for people, heal the sick, and cast out demons. If you allow me to come and do that, you got a deal. And to my surprise, this Muslim businessman sitting in his home on Eid looks at me and says, yes. And so he takes me to the village the next day. And this is in the summertime when I come back in the summer. He takes me up to the village. We meet with the shepherd, the village chief, and all the shepherds. And I sit with them and explain I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm here to tell you about Jesus. If you allow me to come and talk about Jesus and pray with you, I would be happy to do this. I'll ask Jesus for the money for the sheep. And they all agreed and said yes. So I went home and sucked carpet. Jesus, we need a whole bunch of money. And God provided, and we're able to buy all of the 125 sheep to get started. Now it's been over 4 years. Now we have 9 shepherds, and the sheep are multiplying. and I have the opportunity to come and sit with them. We go up to the village. It's about 2 hours up the mountain, and then from the village we get on horseback. We ride the horses up to the top of the mountain where the shepherds' camps are. We camp out with the shepherds. I sit and I tell them Jesus stories, and I tell them about David and Goliath and the shepherds and Jesus being the good shepherd. And when I talked about Jesus laying down his life for the sheep, some of the guys were sitting on the floor and they started laughing. And it comes out that one of the shepherds, he lifts up his hand, it's all covered in scars, where he fought off a lion to protect the sheep. These guys are the real deal. They fight lions and bears. They have the vicious sheep. They call them sheepdogs, but man, these are vicious. But they're up there in these mountains, and it's a hardcore life. And I get to sit where no Christian has ever sat before and tell them about the Jesus that loves them and died for them. And I get to share my testimony, and I get to bring the presence of God into a place where the presence of God had never been before. And there's nothing like that. I cannot tell you how many times I walked out of a village and I just felt like Jesus said, thank you. I could hear him just say, thank you. I've been waiting 2,000 years to get here. I've been waiting 2,000 years to get here. And once again, I get to be the donkey to be able to bring Jesus into these villages. My man of peace is a wonderful Muslim brother. I stay with his family. I've become part of his family. We love each other deeply. I talk to him about Jesus all the time. One day, one of the last times I saw him, we're on our way to the airport. And he's hitting his fist on the steering wheel. And he says, there's no explanation for this. He said, my wife has never seen me cry. My children have never seen me cry. When I'm around you, all I do is cry. He said, no explanation. I said, my brother, there is an explanation, and his name is Jesus, and he loves you very much, and I think you love him very much too. And here's this Muslim trying to digest Jesus for the first time. We have not seen any full-fledged where people are truly following Jesus. But we have seen a demonstration of the Spirit's power there many times. I got one Muslim shepherd. Every time I pray for him, he runs to the wall and puts his back up against the wall to brace himself because he just starts teetering and like he's going to fall out. These people they've never seen anything or heard anything. It's all as raw as could be. And here's this shepherd, the one that has the scars from the lion. He just sits there and cries as I pray over him. Pray for a harvest. It's time for a harvest in Kashmir where that entire village comes to Jesus Christ. We want to see as many of them as possible come to Jesus at the same time. So that's our sheep project.